Hey guys, so I'm going through yesterday's video trying to get everything put together for today, and I'm realizing there's no way I'm going to be able to do a voice over this thing and tell the story of everything that got fucked up yesterday. Little backstory. When we were coming down the East River in New York, we were motoring down and we had the current going with us. And at one point, the engine stalled. It just bogged out and stalled. And I started it right back up, bogged out and stalled the second time. So it seemed like it was just a fuel issue. I didn't know if maybe there's some water in the diesel, maybe there's some sediment, something like that. So I immediately switched over from my starboard tanks to my port tanks. Easiest thing in the world to do. You just go down below, flip the two toggle switches, come back up, fired it back up. Didn't think anything of it. I figured, I'm going to stop in Great Kills and refuel, which I did, and everything's fine. So I topped off both tanks when I got to Great Kills. No more issues. Continued on with the trip, used both tanks again, no issues. So that brings us to yesterday. We left the port we were in the morning, and I was up before dawn, of course, and caught awesome sunrise. When you can see the sun coming up over the water, there's literally nothing interrupting all the way to the horizon. There's no land behind. It just has a creative effect. The video, of course, looks cool, but you don't get the detail of something. I swear, if there was a solar flare, I would have seen it. It was amazing. Anyways, move on that day. Now, the point of yesterday was I was going to try to make tons of miles. That way, by the time we get back down to where we are today. Okay, got cut off there by somebody else coming by asking about the boat. Anyways, we were trying to make crazy miles yesterday, so I was motor sailing, which we have been most of the trip because the wind was straight in our face and everything, but we had a little bit where we were close hauled, and I was able to run both sails up while motoring. We were making better than 7 knots flying. We knocked out 55 miles in no time. Great day on the way down. We saw dolphins 4 times, all kinds of other stuff. You'll see in the video afterwards. It was just a good day all around. Now, as we're coming into Norfolk, Virginia, look at it on a map. You'll see where we're coming through. There's a tunnel where the highway goes underneath the bay. We were coming through that point, and then there's a narrow channel that runs into Willoughby Bay, which is where the anchorage is we're at right now. We're anchored right in front of a very public city boat ramp. There's a shitload of people there yesterday. None of that I was aware of while everything was happening, but there's also on the other side of the bay is a Navy base with like 3 aircraft It's sick. There's choppers flying all over the place. It's crazy. Good scene. But as we're coming in, the motor dies again, and I'm like, what in the hell is going on here? I knew that my port tank was empty, and I'd switched back to my starboard, which is where I was when things had happened in the East River, but I discounted because when I filled it, everything went back to normal. And I know there's like 17 gallons of fuel in that starboard tank because I keep a captain's log and I know exactly how many miles I've gone, how much fuel I have, all that stuff all the time. So I know I've got 17 gallons. It's enough for me to go 170 miles at least. Motor quits while we're coming to this channel. 22 knot wind coming at us sideways. I have to yell at Lila to jump behind the wheel. She jumps behind the wheel, holds that while I'm running down below trying to figure things out, priming fuel pumps, all kinds of stuff. Nothing's keeping this engine running. It's done. I'm fucked. So that turns into there's ways to do this stuff just under sail. I mean, people did it for centuries, and I know how to do it, but I don't generally come in and anchor under sail. Generally, when I come into anchor, I will drop all the sails, motor in, set up the anchor, drop the anchor, pull it back, motor in reverse to set the anchor. It's the easiest thing in the world when you do it like that. But that's not an option anymore. So now we're cruising through this channel. Lida, thank God, goes into crisis mode and doesn't complain, doesn't nothing. She just does exactly what she's told. It's fucking great. She actually responds like I'm actually a captain here. The two of us start sailing. I had to raise the sails while we were in this channel, surrounded by boats, and in this 22 mile an hour wind. 22 miles an hour is generally where I will start reefing my sails because that's as high as I want to go with full sail. But anyways, throw the sails up and we just go from standing still to booting 7 knots through the super narrow channel. The head sail is overpowered, so it's pulling my nose back and forth whenever the gusts come. I'm adjusting the mainsail, trying to keep us from leaning too far. We're just coming in hot, like, I mean, race status, where we're flying, for my boat anyways. And there's like 5-6 boats in the anchorage already anchored. So I come in hot under sail and have Lida drop the jib right when I'm passing the first boat in the anchorage. I have got the anchor already pulled out of the windlass where there's like 40 feet of chain sitting on deck, and I've got it tied off. As I turn to a dead stop right behind the first boat, just like, it's like slamming the brakes, pulled into a parking lot like Ace Ventura. Everybody is around. I'm in front of this crowded boat ramp. Everybody's watching. Pulled to a stop, dropped the mainsail on the way by to the front, dropped the anchor, and let the wind drag us back and set the anchor in one shot. It was textbook way to come in and anchor if you're prepared for it. It just worked out great. So immediately jump down below, start running through things. Now this is where I'm having fun, because when the shit hits the fan, I go into crisis mode, which is brings out the douchebag in me, and I start having fun. Lida's great. She's just handing me tools, doing everything. I changed some fuel filters, everything, still nothing. Now I go back and check my log and come to find out it's at exactly the same level of fuel it was at when the engine bogged out back in the East River. So what this now says to me is that the, just like when you've got a spray bottle, right? There's that stick that comes down to the bottom and it sprays. Well, imagine that thing got cut in half. Now you can only use half the bottle. I think that stick inside my fuel tank has either got a hole in it or it's been broken, something, and it's something I'll replace down, you know, when I actually have, I'm at a marina and stuff, not while I'm underway like this. But it renders the second half of my tank useless. So basically when I get down to a half a tank on my starboard side and my tank on my port side is empty, I'm out of fuel. Whatever. So now I'm running around with Uber. Of course, I make friends with both the Uber drivers. I had the black kid who was driving the first one, convinced he's going to buy a sailboat and move on to it by the time I left, like 14 minutes later. Get to Home Depot, buy tags, all this other shit that I had to do. The next guy picks me up, and he's a Rush Limbaugh fan, so you know we hit it off. Got back out of the boat, dumped 5 gallons of fuel into the port tank, switched over, fired it up, no problem. So we're gonna be back on the road today. Lida and I went in to take the dog for a walk. You'll see this burnt out boat. I'm freaking coming up the rednecks that are at the ramp, pulling this burnt shell of a boat on. I'm like, oh, that'll buff right out. Oh, they're laughing. Yeah, the thing's for sale. Fucking had a great time with that. But it was a funny, ridiculous afternoon. Of course, while it's happening, it's not quite as fun, but looking back on it, it was like superstar status. I sailed better than I have any right to. But enjoy the rest of the video.